The salary is, I would say, about 10% higher than what I used to make. And pretty happy with that, especially given the current economic situation. I'm very happy with the result.
Exactly 60 days is what it took for Sheilin to get hired. The full story in her own words coming up. This is the Get Hired Show. Today's episode, 3 simple steps to cut your job search time in half. If you're ready to dive into today's topic, give those likes a click and definitely make sure to share some love. I'm Jewel Bracy DeMaio, principal job search strategist and executive coach, helping 6- and 7-figure directors, VPs, and C-level leaders get hired in 90 days or less. The problem is the frustration of applying to numerous jobs and receiving minimal to no responses. It feels like the effort invested doesn't seem to match with the results that you want to get back. Applying extensively on various job boards and reaching out to recruiters without success can be a real head scratcher, right? So why, when you perfectly match what the ad requires, is there no feedback? Why are all these doors closed to you? There's a loop of uncertainty there, and you can be left wondering how to get the responses and the attention that you need from the decision makers. So let's talk about 3 simple things you can do to cut your job search time in half. Thing number 1 is get found by using the right story. Your resume is the foundation for your story. And the biggest mistake I see has to do with the wrong approach when it comes to resume writing in the first place. Now, what you don't want to do is fall into the time warp trap. Friends, it is 2024. Please, for the love of all things holy, get the 90s off your resume. And that means get the 80s off of there too. Really? I don't want anything on the resume before 2004. That's 20 solid years, friends. There is no position description anywhere in America that calls for more than 20 years of experience. So please prove me wrong and drop that ad in the comments so that we can all see it. An ad that calls for more than 20 years of experience. I don't want your resume looking like a Wayback Machine. It is critically important to focus on today. Employers want to know what you can do for them going forward. The 2 most important time periods employers care about are now and next. So what can you do for them essentially right now? So let's call that Q1. And what can you do for them in the longer term, which is where the next comes in. So call that all of 2024. The right story illustrates for your audience what you have done, but squarely places it in the context of what you can do now and what you can do next. Now, here's another thing that I need you to get away from. And I know that this one is hard. Conventional wisdom dictates detailing job responsibilities, but this often results in a snooze job, boring resume. The right story is a compelling narrative. Your professional story should unfold like a narrative, not just a list of jobs. Weave a cohesive story that highlights your evolution, emphasizes how each experience contributed to the expertise that you're bringing to the employer now. A narrative approach captivates the reader and keeps the reader engaged. Then present what you do. Action-oriented language instead of just stating what the job duties are, okay? Infuse action-oriented language into your descriptions. Use powerful verbs to convey how you proactively tackle challenges, how you initiated projects, how you provided leadership to teams. Bonus points if they're cross-functional teams, bonus points if they're co-located teams, and even those teams that are both domestic and out of the country. Action-driven comment moves the resume. It gives it life. And that is significantly more captivating, more engaging, and it leaves that lasting impression. It delivers that impact that you're going to want. And then definitely highlight the value that you bring. Quantify your impact. I don't believe in vague, questionable so-called accomplishments. I also don't believe in saving your story for the interview. What you need to understand in 2024 is that your resume and your LinkedIn, that is your interview. Let's call that one step 0. That's your first interview. There is no such concept anymore of saving your stories for the interview. On your resume, you need to specify how you increased efficiency by a certain percentage, how you saved a particular amount of time, how you saved a particular amount of money. Quantifiable, tangible results grab and hold attention. Now, I want us to walk through on the screen exactly what's required step by step. What I want us to take a look at is this ad for PMO Project Management Officer. And let's take a look at the key responsibilities that this says. Project coordination for several PMO competence areas across services, markets, and client CDO program project portfolio. Assist CDO leads and project managers in managing a large portfolio of programs and projects. Enforce a culture of PMO best practices across the CDO group, including adherence to processes and procedures from various governance groups. Serve as a liaison between multiple domain areas within services, markets, and client to synthesize information for communications presentations. Are you bored yet? Because I am. That is not exciting. Now, what I want to talk about is how to go from the ad to the proper story on the resume. Now, the first thing that I'm going to show you is going to be the improper way to do this. This is the before version. This is a version that I don't want you to do. But unfortunately, this is the version that shows up on a lot of resumes. So here it is straight from the ad. Accountable for overseeing and coordinating various aspects of project management within the services, markets, and client CDO program project portfolio. And by the way, just a quick note, when you are looking for a different way to say responsible for, because maybe you heard probably from me that responsible for is straight out of 1982, don't just say accountable for. That's not different. That is not starting this story off with a bang. So remember, we're looking at the before version. This is the wrong version. Facilitate project coordination across multiple PMO competence areas and provide assistance to CDO leads and project managers in managing a diverse portfolio of programs and projects. You bored yet? Because I am. This alleged story is about as flat as it can be. When we're starting off with accountable for, what we're not doing is starting off with action. It is not interesting. It's not going to hold anybody's attention. So let's now convert to the right way to do this. What we're looking at now is a real version of a real client's successful resume. It did not come directly from that ad that we just were looking at, but the person is very, very similar in that you can see that he is a director in a program management office. So what we're doing is we're going to weave a narrative. The narrative begins with an origin story. How did you come to be in this position, in this company in the first place? Let's take a look. So he's director, program management office. Here's how he came to be. Hand-selected by CIO to launch the enterprise PMO. Let's stop there for a second. In the first half sentence, what have we learned? Handpicked by the C-level leadership. And what was he handpicked to do? Start the enterprise program management office. This is a story that will draw the reader in. Let's keep on going. Executing a $100 million portfolio of 70+ business and digital transformation projects and 8+ enterprise-wide programs. All right. So the first thing you do is tell the origin story. How did you come to be here in the first place? And the second thing you talk about is what you were brought in to do. He was brought in to execute this $100 million portfolio of the 70 plus business and digital transformation projects and the 8 plus enterprise wide programs. So, do you see how we're putting action into this story? And do you see the difference between this and the ad? The ad is a snooze job. This is a story that the reader is going to be interested in. Let's take another look. Principally guided strategic IT planning, forecasting, budgeting, sourcing, and value delivery. Notice that the ad used those words accountable for. You might also see responsible for. Accountable for and responsible for are not active verbs. Principally guided is an active verb. And then talk about the main things that you were overseeing. You don't have to talk about every single thing, but hit the broad strokes, hit the areas within your scope of responsibility that are going to convey the most impact. And then we go on with other things that he did, administered CapEx and OpEx budgeting, developed policies and instituted SOPs, coached and mentored a high performance team of IT program and project managers. All right, that's a scope of responsibility. Let's take a look for a second at how we are framing these achievements. So the first thing that I want you to take note of is every achievement starts with an active verb. Every achievement starts with a verb. It happens to be past tense, but it is still conveying action, accelerated, yielded, captured. We go down to the next job, secured. So make sure your first word is a verb. Here's the other thing I'll point out. There are numbers in every achievement here. 75%, $5 million, 10% savings, and when we look down, $5.6 million. So we're starting off with an active verb, and we're making sure to include a number every single time. We'll take a look at a couple of these. Accelerated project planning time by 75% and introduced real-time reporting by outfitting the PMO with automation solutions and introducing best practices in project roadmap development. Great. How about bullet number 2? Yielded $5 million annual ROI from a $550,000 investment within 6 months of innovating 3 pivotal programs. This bullet is chock full of numbers, including a new app for the service team to enhance daily tasks, enabling quick retrieval of information for diagnostics and repairs. So friends, when I'm talking about get found by using the right story, the reason that this is going to be one of the key steps in cutting your job search time in half is because your story is going to be so much more compelling and engaging than what most people are going to do. Because you're going to use those pillars of who you are, what you do, and the value that you bring. Because you're going to tell your origin story when it comes to presenting your experience. You see how different that origin story was from the ad? You see how different the finished resume was from the before version, right? So talk about how you came to be in that organization, in that position in the first place. Talk about what you were brought in to do in the second place. And then make sure that virtually every sentence is starting with an active verb. When it comes down to the bullets, they're going to be past tense, but the point is they're still starting with a verb. A verb means you're moving. A verb means there's action. And put some numbers in there. Quantifiable achievements are exceptionally important. Now, step 2, to cutting your job search time in half. Get found for the right jobs. Now, job search is not just about searching for jobs. Job search needs to happen in layers. So another layer is getting found for the right jobs. Don't just search, get found. And what that means is position yourself as a sought after candidate. And this centers around shifting from a reactive stance to proactive, where opportunities can come to you. This shift requires creating a strong online presence so that you're not lost in the digital world. It is essential to find a way to stand out amid the digital noise and ensure that your unique value proposition is not lost in the masses. Let's take a look at some headlines of people who are general managers. Okay, so we'll look at the first one, general manager at Lock Bar. Second one, general manager. Third one, general manager. Fourth one, general manager at DHL Supply Chain. Fifth one, general manager. Sixth one, general manager for JLL. And here's the question that I would pose to you. Can we tell the difference between any of these people? Do any of these people stand out above any other? No. They're all general managers or general managers for XYZ employer. None of that is compelling. None of that will prompt an employer or recruiter to click. None of that makes these people sought after. But let's look at this example, because Martine is also a general manager. And what we've done for her is transform that job title headline, which is a snooze job, into a skyline headline. General operations and manufacturing manager specializing in strategic business leadership, corporate strategy, operations management, operational excellence. Let me tell you why this is a skyline headline. Number one, it speaks of her level of authority. What level is she on? She's a general manager. That's important because what that's telling the recruiters, the employers, and the people who are looking at her is don't waste everybody's time by calling her for a shift supervisor job. She's a general manager. It's important for you to state your authority in your skyline headline. The next reason that this is transformed from the snooze job headline into the skyline headline is that we are stating her particular area of expertise. She is a general operations and manufacturing manager. That's pretty specific. We know the environments or the type of environments in which she works. And then the third reason that this is a skyline headline is that we are bringing right to the top of her LinkedIn profile her unique blend or mix of expertise. Most people have more than one area of expertise. You have several, and they're related to each other. They're associated with one another. So after the arrow, what we're saying is that her blend of expertise is strategic business leadership, corporate strategy, operations management, and operational excellence. Now, guess what, friends? When a recruiter or employer is searching for her, and what you need to bear in mind is they're not searching for her. They're not searching for Martine. They're not searching for you. They don't know your name. You must bear that in mind. They're searching for someone. So Martine's in Fort Lauderdale. What they're searching for is going to be general manager, Florida, operations manager, Florida, manufacturing manager, Florida, corporate strategy, operations management, operational excellence. I guarantee you those are the keywords that they're typing in. So transform that snooze job headline into the skyline headline so that you can get found, so that you can be that sought after candidate who gets found. What you're doing that's so important is you're doing data-driven LinkedIn profile optimization. So leverage LinkedIn analytics to understand the impact of your profile. Identify which keywords are driving profile views for people who do what you do, and adjust your skyline headline accordingly. Use data to refine your strategy. Focus in on the elements that resonate most with your target audience. So, by the way, this is not about keyword stuffing, okay? So we're not just overloading the skyline headline or the whole LinkedIn profile with keywords. What we're doing is we are strategically placing the keywords where they matter the most. Algorithms prioritize keywords in your Skyline headline, in your about, in your experience, and your skills sections. Navigating LinkedIn can be overwhelming. The challenge there is twofold. It's important to A, have a presence, and then B, make sure that that presence is impactful. So crafting a compelling LinkedIn profile is so crucial in 2024. Yet, day in and day out, I'm having people come to me saying they're barely on LinkedIn. They only started an account because work told them they had to some time ago. And now that it comes time to use it for job search, it's easy to get lost in trying to understand the dynamics of personal branding on the LinkedIn platform. Now, why are those dynamics so important? Because of the alleged hidden job market. I say alleged because it's very easy to think there's some secret magic treasure trove of jobs that some people know about, but you don't. But nothing could be further than the truth. All hidden means is unadvertised. These are the opportunities you want to go after. And the way to bring about those opportunities is to move your job search forward through people. There's no such concept as sitting in your bedroom at night on the computer, clicking away, easy applying all day long and landing a 6 or 7 figure job by Tuesday. It doesn't work like that. Your connections matter. And I don't want you to stay stuck in 1992 thinking of it's not what you know, it's who you know. Get away from that because that's a mindset of excuses and that's a mindset that keeps you stuck. I'll tell you what the roadblock is right here. You come across an opportunity you're interested in at a company XYZ, and the very first thought is, I don't know anybody who works there. That's a thought process that keeps you exactly where you are. That's a thought process that keeps you on the wrong side of the brick wall. And you're keeping yourself there. That's what I want you to understand. We're going to talk about the solution to that problem coming up. Raquel greatly accelerated her job search, and she landed her job in a matter of 3 weeks and 5 days from sending out her very first application. The position that she got is senior associate attorney. We told her story in a way that really worked, and she got a lot of relevant inquiries online. People reached out to her. These were legal recruiters, these were law firms. Conversations are your currency when it comes to job search. And these employers, and there were multiple, came to her, asking her if she wanted to interview. And of course she did. She had 5 interviews her first week, and she got an offer, and still even had 2 more interviews scheduled the week after that. Rob got hired in 10 weeks. So he landed a VP of customer success role for a cybersecurity startup. Now, one of the things that he did in the beginning that was wrong is he was casting this wide net, okay? Very old school thinking. And he put himself out there as a jack of all trades. And he said he was open to anything. Friends, that's not what you do. That's the same as taking the opioid drug. That's the same as putting out that kitchen sink resume full of every single thing you've ever done, then leaving it up to someone else to figure out how you may fit into their organization. No one's going to do that for you, friends. He said his search didn't heat up until he really focused in on a specific role and a specific level of responsibility. So when he zeroed in on customer success, that's when the calls back started pouring in. So that's directly in line with what I showed you before about using LinkedIn, that skyline headline, to position yourself as a sought after candidate. It starts right at the top of your LinkedIn in that skyline headline. A headhunter reached out to him, so he got found by the right people, which is something we're about to talk about. And he went through a series of interviews and ultimately landed the job that he was looking for. Marlene got hired for her new VP role in 6 weeks. Leading up to that, she knew her resume had been outdated antiquated. She wasn't even on LinkedIn. So she knew nothing of the algorithms or anything about any of that. What we did was recalibrate her LinkedIn profile. So she went from getting hits about manufacturing jobs, which had nothing to do with her expertise or her career or her life, to getting relevant guest services and guest experience hits. These were her exact sweet spot. The role she got was VP guest experience, and she had really followed the path that I laid out for her. I want us to hear Sheilin's story and the strategy that we used to get her hired in 60 days. And then finally, we'll take a look at the third simple step to cut your job search time in half.
Really happy to be here and to share the great news. I just started to work with this new company as VP of Operations, and it's been a great experience following since we started and working together with you and following the different suggestions you made to us. And I should say, when I first started my job search a few months ago, it was kind of out of a very unexpected situation that I was laid off totally unexpected, and then started my job search myself by like posting to job ads, et cetera, and got little response, got little interviews, and nothing really happened. And then we started to work together, I would say a couple of months ago, since I think October. And then I landed this job in December, which I previously have saw this is the slow time and very unlikely for me to land something big. And I was fully prepared that I probably will wait till Q1 to get some actual things, but it just happened. So really excited to share my story.
So, this is another success story about getting hired during the holidays. Friends, I have said it before, I will say it again. The holidays are absolutely not dead. So, I have already brought you people who have gotten hired the day after Thanksgiving, the week after Thanksgiving, the week between Christmas and New Year's. That's not a time when you want to slow down, friends. What you want to do is you want to keep that train moving forward. And we have another prime example of that success sitting right here. Sheilin, take us to the beginning of the story. I want to go through this step by step. So you got laid off. That was shocking. Tell me about what you were doing in your job search, on your own in the first place. What did that look like?
So I haven't been actively looking for a job for a long time. I run my own business, and then oftentimes there's executive recruiters reaching out. So it's more like when I got this, I just talked to someone, I prepared something, and then I landed the next opportunity. And as I mentioned, this is just totally out of nowhere that I didn't expect. So I sort of get lost. And then I guess I started the most traditional approach, that I just go through job posts after job posts, through these different job boards, apply to a ton of jobs. Some are even like sort of lower than my current level, but I was like, oh, I just need something. I apply a ton, and then most of the time it just came back with the auto-generated email. Sorry, you're great, but sorry. And very few times, very, very unlikely for me to get the next step, even for a recruiter to follow up with me. And I was questioning why, because I totally believe many of these jobs I applied, I'm the perfect fit, my background and everything. And then I actually also first worked with someone else that were trying to promote their approaches, how well it is, but got a pretty bad experience through that. And but I'm glad that we get to talk and get to work together, and through this whole process. And it really happened in 90 days.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Now, when you were doing this before you and I got together, how many roles would you say you had applied for? And then clarify for us one more time what that period of time was approximately.
I would say for about maybe like between 1 to 2 months for that period. I would say I applied to maybe like 50-ish jobs, I think.
And what were the results? Was it all the automated emails of, you're great, but we've picked someone else? Or did you get a couple calls? Or what were the
Yeah,
results?
I got maybe a couple, maybe like 2, 3 calls out of that.
Okay.
And some actually was more of an interview, and some were even like they did reach out saying, okay, we're trying to schedule something, but then I replied and then just nothing happened afterwards.
So you got professional help before you and I got together. What did you have done the first time around when you got professional help?
Well, so I actually got that twice. One was a few years back. What they did, they do rewrite the resume, and then they kind of introduce an approach trying to look for those unpublished jobs. However, the way they did it's like they just throw it to you. They just, okay, here's what you do, and that's it. And there's no like hands-on support along the way. And then after a while, it just didn't go anywhere. And they kind of just ask you to look for those different leads out of nowhere. So that time it didn't work out. And then the second time was right before you and I get together, was someone was also trying to promote. They send emails, and I saw that, so I engaged with this person. And so what they asked us to go through like a video or a video conference, trying to go through the approach, and then they asked us to set up a follow-up conversation with them. But it was like really a pure pushing sales approach that basically I was told, this guy told me that you need to, like, you have to 100% trust my way. Like, otherwise it's like, you can't ask me any questions, because I was still trying to understand more how his approach work, and how is he going to do that, and my concern and this and that. And he was like, well, I mean, what I said is already all mentioned in the initial view. Like, now it's really like, do you want to go ahead or not? And it's not for everyone, and blah blah blah. And then towards, like, after a few questions, he was like, okay, you're not the ideal customer for me, or something like that. And just he simply, like, even in the beginning, he said, like, if in the video he said, like, if we don't think you're the right candidate, we will suggest something else, or refer. And to that call with this guy, he simply just hang up, and that's it. And I think that's towards the end of that 15 or 20 minutes call. So it was pretty bad experience.
Wow. So really all you were bringing to the table were a few questions about how does this work? And that was another service. And he just didn't sound like he was tolerating probably what were some basic questions. Is that really what went down?
Right.
Okay.
He kind of expect that once you attend that initial meeting, you should totally trust him and just follow whatever that approach. And that was I think he has like a lot of publication, et cetera, and kind of like also big on LinkedIn. But apparently this whole sales approach or this engagement just totally make me very uncomfortable anyway.
So let's go ahead and talk about how you felt initially when you and I first started talking. And I think this is important because, you're not the only person who looks at different career coaches and tries to, check out some different things online, et cetera. But then obviously you and I got together and obviously you and I did this work. Can you talk a little bit about how you felt during our initial conversations, even before you officially came on board?
Well, I think it's very personal that we get to spend the time to talk a lot. You and I meet for more than once before I finally sign up. You and I talk maybe I think at least 2 times. And I think I feel like we're both trying to understand each other, getting to know each other, and that my needs, my concerns, and other things are really heard. I think especially we especially address the needs for female executive and the minority executive, the special challenges we're facing in our job search. And I think this is really helping me feel that you are working with individual person, you're working towards everyone's different needs. And also you mentioned it's a small program that you're not working with many people, you're only working with a few people at a time. So we get the individual attention towards our own different needs. So really, I feel like all this helped me to make the decision that this could be the right solution for me.
Thank you. Thank you for walking us through how you felt, in the very beginning of when you and I got together. So, you and I did a lot of things, different steps and everything as we walk down this path. Is there some things that stood out to you as being most helpful, or is there a particular component that you got the most comments on from prospective employers, recruiters? What do you feel stands out in your mind?
I would say a few different things.
Okay.
One, of course, is the resume itself. And I feel like we really take the time to go through every single aspect of my career, the highlights, and really highlight it, really make it represent what I have done. So that's one. And the other part, I think, is the LinkedIn profile. I'm pretty sure because of because of all the endorse and other things, I feel like the profile itself stood out more and potentially on the search result, because I do see the view and the search result numbers increased for the last few months. I'm getting a lot more executive recruiters calling for potential opportunities. And even now, like I started something new, I'm still getting the attention from LinkedIn. So that's the second part. And the third part, I think it's a direct engagement with potential employer. And this is actually the one thing that helped me get this job. I follow the approach for reaching out to the decision makers on LinkedIn, to these recruiter and the hiring manager. And for this job specific, I actually talked to the CEO of the company and on LinkedIn, and he replied almost immediately. And then we started to have a conversation, continue with the conversation, and then meet with him, follow up, and then ended up getting this job. It all happened in a quite short period of time.
So tell us what that period of time was. Are we talking days, weeks? What do you think? From whenever you found out about the opportunity to how about getting that first response? What was that time frame? And then tell us the time frame to actually getting the offer.
Sure. So I think I saw this job on LinkedIn, and so I applied. Of course, I applied as when I see it, and then I started to do the research, trying to find out who that is and who's hiring. And actually, the CEO himself posted the job, so I reached out directly to the CEO on LinkedIn over a weekend, and I think he replied on the same day and saying, "Let's set up a time to talk." I think that was the next day, if I'm not wrong. So then we started the phone conversation, and then he mentioned a few challenges more from the business, and as part of the interview, I guess. So he's really asking me to thought through and propose some suggestions towards those challenges. So that was like, he and I had some back and forth conversation for me to try to understand his needs, etc. So, and then we talked about that in the next 2-3 days. And then he asked me to go to meet him in person in the office. So that was still, I think it's still within the same week. And so I went over, so get to meet some of the team. And then also we went to some of the actual sites out of the office that the company is actually working at. So got to meet some of those people working there, understand their needs, challenges, etc. So kind of, I felt like he's already introducing me as kind of that to be VP of operations. And then towards the end of the conversation, towards the end of that day, towards the end of that meeting, I was actually rushing to leave because I'm running late to pick up my kids. And pretty much in the subway station, he gave a verbal offer. And then of course I appreciate that and say I just want to consider through, and I'll get back to him soon. And he was almost like, can you start next week, pretty much like that. But that was already towards the Christmas. So of course I still have some more questions, and I want to kind of negotiate a little bit with him. And then but still we ended up agreeing upon starting beginning of the year.
We're going to hear part 2 of Sheilin's story in our next episode. Sheilin transformed her job search by initiating the first crucial step: the very same initial step that I encourage you friends to take advantage of, the new job game plan. What we do is hold this free new job game plan call with you, and you can get it by going to 90dayoffer.com/game plan. Your new job game plan is with me or the team, and here's what we're going to talk about. What's going on in your current job search situation now, why you're searching right now, what has put you out into this job market, how the search is going right now, and how we may be able to help. It's important for us to be able to hear about your story and hear about your situation in order for us to recommend what will be helpful to you. 90dayoffer.com/game plan is a place to go. New job game plan call is 10-15 minutes. We will answer all the questions you could have possibly thought of, plus the ones you didn't even think to ask. Okay, we left off with a major roadblock. You're interested in an opportunity, you're interested in the company, but the very first thought is, well, I don't know anybody who works there. Okay, so what I don't want is for that thought process to be an excuse that keeps you stuck on the wrong side of the brick wall. If you don't know anybody who works there, you don't just stop, you get to know somebody who works there. First of all, identify the top employers where you want to work and let recruiters know you're interested. So here's an example of what that looks like. Let's say that I'm interested in Deloitte. What I'm going to do is go to Deloitte's company page, and it's usually going to start on the Home tab. Go on over to the About tab and scroll down. There's the overview, the website, a couple of pieces of information. But this is the part that we want to pay attention to. Interested in working with us in the future? Privately share your profile with our recruiters. You'll be noted as expressing interest for up to a year, and then you're just going to go ahead and click, I'm interested. You've expressed interest, thanks, and then LinkedIn will give you the opportunity to follow the company so that you see various updates in your feed. Letting recruiters know that you're interested empowers you to take a proactive stance in your own job search. So clicking the button sends a clear signal to recruiters that you are actively seeking opportunities with their organization. It raises your visibility in their talent pool, increasing the likelihood of them considering you for relevant positions that align with your skills and with your career aspirations. This is a very direct and targeted line of communication with recruiters, and it increases your networking opportunities. So for the companies that have this feature, let recruiters know that you're interested, recruiters are notified in real time when you click that button. And this immediacy allows them to promptly review your profile and reach out directly to you. Then what I want you to do is make social media a component of your strategy to cut your job search time in half. Identify the top employers that you're interested in. Then identify the top 6 influencers there you'd like to meet. What I want you to do is show up in their feed 3 days a week. So what this is the power of selective connections. Get away from this notion of casting a wide net, very, very old school, and instead focus on strategic and selective connections. Identify those people you'd like to meet. If you don't know anybody there, who do you want to know? Put those people into a list of 6 for that particular company and do that for all of your top companies. And when I say show up in their feed, what does that mean? Well, go ahead and comment on their posts. Now, when you comment, it's best to do it in a certain value-laden way. Edit here. Now, when you comment, it's best to do it in a certain value-laden way. What you want to do is shift from always job seeking to creating value. Engage in online discussion, share insights, showcase your expertise. This is a proactive approach. So not only does it build your professional brand, but it also attracts opportunities to come to you. So remember those layers that we want to have happen in your job search. Part of connecting with the people you need has to do with getting in on the conversations that they're already having. And not every conversation has to have something to do squarely with your job search. Be a regular human being and talk about regular things. When you're adding value in the form of a social media comment, go deeper than just writing great post on some person's feed because they happen to be the CEO, the COO, the vice president of HR at the employer that you want. What you're looking to do is raise or advance the conversation that's taking place. So this is the age of rapid fire commenting, fleeting attention spans, but I don't want you to be basic. I don't want you to be surface. Offer a constructive critique. Offer a thoughtful analysis. Offer another resource. Okay. When you're commenting, make the comment substantive. You can suggest an alternative perspective. You can provide a relevant resource. You can pose an insightful question. So move beyond the likes and shares. Don't be so clicky like you're going to do everything so fast. Clicking doesn't get you there. Authentic engagement on social media, and you know LinkedIn is social media, right? That is what forges genuine connection. So there's an anatomy to giving value in a comment. Number one, thank the person. And I say bonus points for tagging them as well. Number two, acknowledge something that aligns with the main thrust of what they're talking about. And number three, add a point of your own in order to keep the conversation moving forward. So let me show you what that can look like. I happen to follow Andrew. I'm trying to highlight his name, but you can see it. He is a senior managing editor at LinkedIn. So he's talking about dry January felt pervasive this year. And two of the most interesting articles I've read over the weekend were about the current sober and sober curious moment. The first was an enthusiastic profile of Athletic Brewing's Ascendant alcohol-free beer. And then he goes on. So I read this, and here's what I said. First of all, I tagged him and I thanked him. Andrew, thanks for sharing this. I think the trend toward moderation and healthier lifestyle choices is gaining more and more speed. See how I'm saying something that is, acknowledging the thrust of what he's talking about. And then what I did is I offered an additional resource. I said Untappd, and I tagged them too. Untappd, which offers a lot of beer reviews and recommendations, seems to have a growing number of features on non-alcoholic beers and other alcohol-free beverages. Okay. I acknowledged him. I tagged him. I thanked him. I said something along the lines of what he's talking about. And then I offered another resource. That, friends, is a substantive comment. Friends, those are the 3 simple steps that you can execute today to cut your job search time in half. If you're ready to get professional help for your resume and for your job search, get your new job game plan now at 90dayoffer.com/game plan. It's 15 minutes of us talking about your background story, what's going on in your job search now, what you're thinking you'd like to do next. If you're not getting enough responses, we'll talk about that. If you're interviewing but not getting offers, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about whatever point in the job search you're in right now and what you feel like you need help with. The new job game plan is private. It's one-on-one. Share your story with me or a specialist on our team, and you'll get some thoughts and recommendations on what to do next so that you have specific, concrete steps going forward. On the next episode of the Get Hired Show, right and wrong resume formatting and 3 little pointers to raise your resume response rates. Be sure to join us right here Friday at noon Eastern Time.